Hi, this is Ann Morphew, and I'm here to share my condensed research proposal for Digi 705. I'm going to take a moment and share the screen and tell you all about feed. I want to know, what are we feeding our community college students in our online classes through instructor communication for fundamentals of speech communication? There are a lot of reasons we need this study. The academic freedom that community college instructors hold to do as they choose, the lack of oversight for curriculum, which is, I'm grateful for and I'm excited about, but there's a lack of oversight there. And I want to emphasize this study is not to create any standardization. It is an opportunity. There are limitations. Students don't answer their emails, and to know about how and what the instructor is digitally communicating can offer us a baseline of the content, feed forward, and feedback, what I call feed with a capital. Due to the higher education instructor and academic freedom and higher education traditional oversight practices, there's no consensus or baseline understanding of how fundamentals of communication is digitally communicated to and with community college students. We were all jerked into fully online. Thank you, God. I had some established before, well established before we did that. And thank you, God, we were able to support one another. But with that rapid move and expansion, opportunity exists to examine the digital communication practices for comm. Lots of research suggests a variety of things that get down to the one in green there. Theory needs to be grounded in data collection from the field, especially in the actions, interactions, and processes of people. The purpose of my two-tier study, beginning at my local institution and then expanding to the other 12 community colleges in the TBR, Tennessee governing body, community colleges, is to examine and establish a baseline of content, online content and feedback communication, or feed. It's likely that we'll all be online soon, and although student perception has been studied, or at least in some part, by the way, there's hybrid classes, of course, and there's those face-to-face elements in virtual classrooms. But student perception has been studied a lot, but instructor perception of student response to digital feed is scarce. Baseline studies were hard as all get out to find. And certainly baseline studies that combine instructors' digital communication as well as instructional response to students' action is lacking. Perhaps we can see some of that. The community-based participation research model and the SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threat analysis, is there, but again, the baseline studies are lacking. A few days before our paper was due, I came upon something that was truly awesome in its fit. Constructivism in grounded theory of communication hinges on the relationship of the researcher to the participants and to the data. It presumes that I will come in as a subjective being, not just objective. And I'll use theoretical sensitivity to recognize and extract from the data the things that are relevant. We'll see patterns and begin to find a theory emerging. There's an emphasis in constructivism in grounded theory on memoing, keeping written evaluations documented, concurrent collection of and coded evaluation from interviews, AV documents or artifacts, and extant documents. The research, again, assumes that I can't set aside my prior knowledge, that I'm going to use it to develop new theories. And the one I loved, because creating visuals helps me see things more clearly and express myself better, is the cartographic approach, where you analyze complex situations and create them into a model or a diagram. So I have a lot of research questions, but they all relate to the types and characteristics, the patterns, things that are outliers, what platforms used, what methods are used, and whether the teacher perceives or the documents indicate there's a passive or participatory opportunity for the audience, our students. When I get to tier 2, that's going to be the remainder, the 12 other community colleges, because tier 1's my peers, my 5 full-time peers, well, myself and they are 5 at Roane State Community College. Same kind of questions at tier 2, but does the data confirm or deny or expand the current thing? What new insights or implications can we see? And perhaps there'll be some changing. I'm hoping to work out the kinks at the local level and then move on to the TBR, other community colleges. I've discussed the paradigm, and the design is all of the collection of data, and the participants begin with those 5 full-time instructors that, and I say full-time, we have a lot of rich and wonderful adjunct instructors, but this particular theory presumes often a smaller sampling, but a richer sampling. And again, tier 2, full-time, it will speech fundamentals teachers will be included. The instruments are self-reported and collected. The interviews, collection of online artifacts, the memoing continually, where I collect and analyze and code. There are 3 levels of coding in grounded theory of communication, constructivist grounded theory of communication. Initial, where you ask the questions to assert if the data is relevant to the study, you watch the processes that are evident and what is the data is saying. The focused coding, second step, is to develop categories and see where they often beginning to generate a theory around a core variable. I'm trying to make this fast, guys. The identification of relationships. And then this is the great part where you begin to start to diagram these things. Selective coding is the more advanced stage of methodology, and it's often aided by writing a storyline or creating a more visual model and diagram about the theory or operations. Memoing is going to give you your quality and rigor. It offers an audit trail. And Chamaz, who I used a lot and got a couple of her books, asks a few key questions that are relevant to this particular theory. The data analysis is concurrent, ongoing. The application of communication competence is using, I see a typo there, using interpretive analysis of feed and perhaps generating other ideas to study. Certainly an IRB will be completed, and I think it was Eric's idea of the right to remove selected personal information being offered to the participants. My colleagues will not be commanded to participate. It's voluntary, but you can certainly bet I'm going to incentivize it at the departmental or institutional level. If we get a good model and get some good buy-in, I think that it will go over well with the wonderful teachers in TBR at the larger level. And again, chapter 4 and 5 of the dissertation, thank you, I think Taylor, for showing me how to do that one, will be where the presentation plans are held.